Yeah, you guys can already come because I want you to have next to me. So we'll have a panel, and this time I'm actually going to be the moderator. So I'm going to invite on stage, and please applaud him. In order, no particular order, Kate Murphy, Helen James, Saskia Jones, and Ben Shaw. Please. And how awesome is it to, for first time today, to be like in the lesser gender as men. Finally, you know, it's something we struggle at conferences, right? So first, I'm going to obviously ask each of them to introduce themselves. Some of them I've just met, some of them I just don't know yet. So we're going to do that very briefly on the time you want, and then also probably having a bit of background on the company. So who wants to take it first? No, you want to take it first, Ben, although the only the men here, and it's not very gentle to do that, but...
So, a bit of background, for those who don't know, BBH is a creative agency, worldwide creative agency. We've got about 1,000 people across the world. And BBH Live is a unit, a specialism within BBH, which focuses on data-driven social content. We're a team of about 30-odd different individuals with all different disciplines. And that's what I've been doing for the past 2 or 3 years at BBH. I've been there nearly 9 years now, and my background is as a strategist.
I'm Kate Murphy, and I'm Associate Creative Director and look after a team of about 6 kind of specialist creatives in BBH Live.
I'm Saskia, I'm Data Strategy Director, and I look after analytics and insight, a team of about 4 people within BBH Live.
Hello, I'm Helen James. I am the managing partner of BBH Live. I've been at BBH about 10 years, and I suppose of the panel and the newest to the world of sort of digital transformation. So in my sort of 10 years at BBH, I've been sort of running some of our biggest and most challenging clients.
So let's, did you want to run a movie now first, maybe? No?
Play the next film, I think this is one of the...
so we have a bit of context for the audience, and then we'll move on to some debate. Yeah, for the moment, the movie is a BBH Live logo kind of moves around, which is interesting. Oh, guys, do you have the... Oh, we actually have to use this. Oh, this is... I thought the car would actually do it. So I guess I just need to do that. Oh, my God. The slides are already there. So you just met these 4 beautiful people, and
there you go.
There's the video. Should I... Is it a keynote?
No.
Should be
If I press, let's... No.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Can you run the video, guys, for us on the thing?
You can put stuff out, Mid. You're going to help load it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a customer announcement for Mr. Paul Thomas.
Hi, Dad. It's Francesca here.
Hello, Dad. It's me, Stu.
It's Jagger and Ryder and Red and Ribbon and Mad-Eye.
Just to say, I love you from the bottom of my heart.
You used to try and teach me how to kick a ball on the big oak trees at the bottom of the pot.
Dad, I am so pleased that we've been able to rebuild our relationship.
Thank you for always being there for me and actually becoming a part of our family.
You've never, ever, ever once in my life made me feel like you were disappointed.
Despite my size and condition, you have made me a strong, independent, confident, caring young man. I love you with all my heart.
Happy Father's Day. That's what it's for.
Love you.
Love you too.
Right, next we've got to go get some natural yogurt. This is down there.
Sod. You see what Mummy just did?
Yeah, so to give a bit of context, so I don't know if everyone's familiar with Tesco, but they're one of the biggest retailers in the UK. And for Father's Day, we kind of took the insight that dads don't necessarily get told how much we love them the same that we do for mums for Mother's Day. So everyone in that is completely real, and we invited them to store. The dads thought that they were going to be part of a kind of shopping experiment, and then we surprised them. And I think what was cool is it was one of our most successful campaigns that ran on social?
Yeah, so a lot of what we do is data-driven, so we try and create content that really resonates with the audience, and I think part of that is really understanding the type of content that people really want to watch, and the organic part of the campaign outperformed the paid media part, so they got 9 million views organically, which in terms of earned media was a huge success for the client.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're going to get there in the matter of the subject in a bit. First of all, I think our common denominator, I think we all live in London, so obviously we all know Tesco, though for me my only relationship with Tesco is online because I'm too lazy to actually go to the store. I'd rather have them delivered at home. But if you read any headlines in the past, I was about to say 5 years, but I could extend that to 10 years actually. There's always something about something is dead. Marketing is dead, agencies are dead, advertising is dead, everything is dead, and sometimes then it's not, and then there's also the whole thing about it's, you know, small is beautiful, big is beautiful, and it goes like these snakes all the time, you know, these are cycles. I think Martin Sorrell at the WPP actually wrote an article about that maybe a year ago, but saying that, well, enough with everything is dead, we're not dead, we're not there yet. Though, what he also said, I think it was at the Guardian Media Summit last year, he also mentioned that, well, agencies had and have to still transform themselves in order to accommodate a different world. You said something that I'll pick up, you said, these people were completely real. And it's almost funny that we have to say it, because we became almost suspicious of everything agencies do that, oh, well, you know, probably it's yet another clip made for the Lions because they want to win an award, and you know, everything is a setup, right? So we decided on that order. Sorry to again go to Ben, the other male, and it's not very. I feel really bad to do that. So the first topic we're gonna talk about today, and I will mention that obviously these guys work together. So I'm going to be the contrarian. So I'm going to be the bad guy on this panel. I have to. Is there a future for that agency? How do you see the future for that agency? Ben, do you want to take that one?
So I think it's we're at a really, really interesting time because what the last 10 or 20 years has created is a whole new digital industry, especially massively disrupting the traditional ad agencies. And what that has created is loads and loads of potential, and that's where we're seeing so much growth through programmatic marketing. What's the potential negative for the ad industry and the creative industry is that as programmatic gets bigger and bigger and bigger, more and more robots are stealing jobs. And there's also a shift in how marketeers and brands are approaching the realm of creative work, which is when it comes down to robots, we look for efficiency. We don't necessarily always look for effectiveness. And when you're just looking at efficiency, you can sometimes miss the intangible, longer-term growth and creative sparkle that you get by having people touch work instead of just having algorithms figure out the best place to put a logo and how many different faces and how many seconds we should be trying to get it in front of people's eyes. And so with advertising, I think the future of it needs to be trying to harness all the power that we've got from exactly as Ali was just describing before, of all the potential that tech can give, but not forgetting that to get to people's hearts, you still need a human to touch it.
Yeah, I mean, we say that, I'll just pick up what you said at first. You said, you kind of mentioned this differentiation between short-term and long-term planning. But having worked, never on the agency side, having worked with a lot of agencies, is it not always in your hands? Is it not always something that the clients are very short-term based and you have no absolute control of deciding, hey guys, we need a campaign in the next 3 weeks or month? And this long-term planning, although, is it not a bit of wishful thinking? Do you have any power to act upon that?
Well, I think the hard thing that the beauty that digital and specifically social has created is that we can put out campaigns really, really quickly. So much of our work is built off being reactive. What clients are not focusing on enough is thinking about how that adds up to a longer term brand story or brand idea, and thinking about the idea that brands aren't just made through one small campaign, they're made over time, especially when you look at brands like Tesco. Every big brand that you've ever seen is built up of lots of mini moments, not just one short-term thought.
So the other thing that when we were preparing this, you said, and I pretty much laughed at the comment, is competing with cats. So as an owner of 3 cats, I know that they compete for my attention all the time and also for my food resources. So do you mean by that there's between, I mean, I'm not saying this is the only outcome of any agency. There can be other types of outcome, short-based, like you just mentioned, the social media, for instance. Do you mean that consumer-generated content is actually competing with the eyeballs with what you actually try to generally do?
I think it's just we're literally competing with cats. It's the best thing on the internet is cats. It's not brand content. It's there was an amazing stat I actually pulled out for a presentation the other day. In the UK, there are 3.8 million cat photos or videos shared every day, which is double the number of selfies. And we think as marketeers to perfectly craft a campaign, and we'll work on it for months and months and months, and then we'll work with a media agency to get the targeting perfectly, and then we'll be crafting it, making it beautiful, making sure everything's right, probably run about 5 or 6 different tests. We put it in feeds, and people just scroll past it and look at a cat doing this. And that's the reality that I think we can sometimes lose.
But we're also, I think, like more and more, people are becoming so savvy to advertising, and they're switching off as much as they can, and they're, finding clever ways to avoid it. And I try and avoid it myself, and I make it. So it's ridiculous. So it's along with competing with the stuff I actually want to engage with, you've also trying to find ways to get it even in front of people.
Yeah, because it's almost a race, right? There's a race of, you mentioned, and I'll move on from Ben, I'll come back to that. You mentioned, of course, the robots and automation, and of course there's a race of optimizing as much as you can the output of what you guys create, even if it's on the creative, it's just a human creative side, and to actually optimize in how it's channeled through all the different channels. But there's the other race, which is like you just ad blockers is another race. It's like an arms race. Who's going to get around it first, right? And then there's at some point there's technology, and yet I hadn't seen that one, but yet we see a lot of content that, because maybe it's beautifully creative, no matter, we don't want to avoid it. We will actually look at it. But I want to go a little bit to, will robots steal your jobs, or will you disappear We'll have a panel in 5 years, and will I talk to 5 cars actually instead of talking to you? Maybe a car will talk to you actually. So maybe Ellen, do you want to take on that one?
Well, I certainly hope not. I'll be out of a job. I think it's an interesting one because, of course, as we get more personalised, more targeted, clients want more and more content from us. And most of the briefs we get nowadays, it's not sort of make me one thing, it's make me 1,700 things that are very personalised and speak to different audiences at different times. What we as agencies can do, though, is take those tasks and almost put a lot of time and effort into them. I think what robots and tools and data have given us is the ability to take quite labour-intensive tasks and actually sort of do them in a more efficient way. So it's really driving efficiency in agencies, which means we, the humans, can then spend more time doing the stuff like you saw for Tesco, the real sort of creative sparkle that Ben talked about. So I think really it's not will robots take our jobs, it's how we can work together with robots in order to make it even better. And I think the way that we use data in BBH allows us to sort of unearth those really interesting insights, get to interesting points of view, which then mean when we then sort of brief Kate and the creative team on it, actually the insight they're working from, the audience, is much more relevant, so you get to even better creative work. So I think it's about sort of bringing the alchemy of robots and humans together, really.
So isn't then the race, isn't it between the types of jobs at a company? Because if you're purely a creative, which I admire, then you also need people who both create the algorithms, understand the algorithms, understands all that data that comes out of it, the output, because it's almost overwhelming. So is also your type of jobs changing? Do you have to educate yourself? And maybe the hires, the new talent you are actually onboarding is also different. I don't know if you want to.
Definitely. I mean, and I think agencies have actually been quite late to it, if I'm honest. Some of our clients actually are forcing us and sort of challenging the way we do things. But, the introduction of creative technologists, so guys that actually understand the tech, how it works, and work and partner with the creative teams, has been a massive shift in how we do things. Just the influence and importance of data, and Saskia's team, the ability to sort of use tools to not only understand our performance and how we can optimize campaigns, but also sort of help feed the creative process, has meant, yeah, we all need to sort of upskill, train ourselves differently, and there are different people in agencies now. And it's trying to get agencies, especially sort of a big agency like BBH, to embrace different types of people, different ways of working. It is part of the thing we've been doing in BBH Live, the social media unit, just in order to change the agency.
So maybe I'll ask Saskia then, because you just mentioned her. How do you combine these two forces? How do you balance them? How do you make sure that one? Because we hear some agencies tell we need to only hire tech people. We need to hire data scientists. And then what about the creatives? And others are just saying no because human emotions. I mean, la la la. And this we have. So how do you do that at BBH? Is that something? How do you value creativity there?
I think it's twofold. I think part of it is process, making sure that the data strategists that we have obviously work in a creative agency because they care about the output, otherwise they would go and work in a data agency, I imagine. And they partner up with the strategists and with the creatives to make sure that I guess the sounding board is one that is genuinely audience-driven rather than brand-driven, and I think that's how we're probably quite different from the main BBH agency, is that traditionally we have gone brand first, what's the message that we're trying to tell our audience, but I think the more and more we're creating content and the more and more people are trying to avoid it, it's actually about going audience first and then trying to put the brand into what the audience wants to see. I think in terms of trying to value creativity, I think there's been a huge body of research that tells you how important creativity is in terms of business outcomes. I think the IPA say that creatively award-winning work is 12 times more effective than non-creatively award-winning work. But I think actually, weirdly, this data-centric world that we now live in that has been fueled by digital probably slightly counterintuitively makes it harder to measure the impact of that creativity. And I think part of it is that the digital metrics that kind of sit in silos, each platform measures slightly different metrics that aren't comparable to one another, have made us focus on the short term. And I think that's blurring the lines between actually, are we measuring efficiency or are we measuring effectiveness? And it is a discussion that we have with our clients and with media agencies about what metrics show the impact of creativity and which are showing an efficient media buy. And I think platforms are getting there. I think they are more able to measure brand and commercial outcomes, but I think it's kind of up to us as an agency and up to our clients to push them to be able to evaluate our digital platforms against the same brand and commercial measures that the rest of the business is looking at.
Yeah, because for a long time you would hear, especially at this dawn, I don't know, 10 years ago, that, metrics will solve our problems. We'll be able to basically analyze everything. And we're still not there, actually. We're still kind of, right? We have more and more data, but we're still not sure. And it's not about the quality of the people. Like you said, the platform, and that was very important. The platforms are getting there, but they're not providing all the tools that we might, I'm not an agency here, but we might actually need to do. So do you think, do clients still believe at face value all the metrics you give them? And that question could be for you, Saskia, or for Ben, or do they?
I think they're getting savvier. You only have to look at Facebook. I think they're on their 10th apology for issues with their metrics. I think they're getting savvier, and I think as budgets tighten, there is much more of a focus on what is the impact of this work on my brand, on the bottom line. And I think there have been movements. I think some of the most exciting things from a measurement point of view that BBH Live has done have been to try and close the loop between an online impression to an offline purchase with Tesco using loyalty card data. And I think it's that third party moving away from just Facebook marking or Google or anyone marking their own homework to almost third party verification and third party measurement to try and close that gap. But yeah, I think clients are definitely smartening up to it and demanding more from us, demanding more from them to make sure that we are able, basically so that they can go to the C-suite and say, this is the ROI or this is the brand impact of this piece of content.
I think, to jump in there, like as a agency, that's why it's so important to have someone like Sas, because if I don't have an ally that really understands it as a creative, I think you risk clients being able to take the bits that they want and the measurements that they want to then kind of force you down a path that maybe isn't right or doesn't allow you to then have the kind of creative freedom. And so just speaking from creativity perspective, it's so important to have a team that can then kind of unlock the creativity rather than try and kind of kill it.
So that's external looking, so that's validating what you're saying to the client, but there's a change also that has to come inside, because you're a company, what, 30 years old, you said earlier? So 30 years old mean that you were not a company like that, and these type of talents are completely new. So how do you cope with that? How do you, and that question is either for you, Kate, or Ben, maybe both of you can, how do you change your organization from within? Then a creative who's been around for 20 years has to accept that this is a new world, has to accept that, you know, he has to deal with data scientists. How do you make that change happen? How do you make it future-proof?
It's really, really difficult. You know, it's,
sure.
It's really, really difficult. I think that with any organization, it's built not just on what you sell, but the culture that exists within the organization. And so much of what we've been trying to do at BBH in setting up live has been trying to create different kinds of work means that we need a different kind of culture. If you keep trying to do the same thing over and over again with the same process, you're going to get the same output. And so we've been trying to find people who want to work a bit of a different way, and that means trying to find people who aren't necessarily cookie cutters of what the rest of the ad industry is looking for. I think it's probably true, especially of Kate, of not a traditional creative and not coming from a really traditional background and looking for people that want to fuck with the system a little bit.
A counterculture then?
Yeah.
Punk rock for agencies.
They want to be able to break it a little bit, to try and piece it back together. And I think where we've got to is something that looks really, really similar to an agency model. It just behaves a little bit differently in terms of the processes.
And I mean, I won't name the company, and I will try to say very elusive because I don't want to bash someone. It's not you guys, don't worry. But recently I was involved in a pretty big project that has a lot of social engagement, let's put it that way. And I had to grow through the teams that were handling social media. It was an agency handling for a big corporation based in the UK. That's all I'm going to say. And it was a live event, so it was 24/7. And this is BBH Live. Again, these were not the ones handling this. Please don't worry. But what I had to endure was like pre-submitting content. Each tweet had to be pre-submitted and pre-validated, and I'm like, guys, we're running a live event. I cannot tell you 5 weeks in advance what's going to happen at 1 a.m. that day, right? So meaning that there's still not only in the people, but also in the mentality of how an agency works, sometimes not really catered to that world of global 24/7, meaning depending on the time zone, you always have to be active. You cannot just buffer stuff. So how do you cope with that change within the company? How is that even the creative model change within the company, BHH? Maybe Kate, you want to touch upon that?
I think to echo what Ben said, it's really, really hard, because if you have got 30 years of doing something the same way, then and they've been successful for that. I think part of it comes from clients and having clients that really trust you. I think a lot of it is about really setting what you need to happen up front and getting clients on board with it really early. So something like live event, you need to be saying to them, we can't do 10 rounds of amends. You need to be there with us, and we just have to trust us. And I think that's one of the biggest differences between the traditional big TV ads that are crafted within an inch of their life over, kind of maybe a year or something, and then a project where you do just need to turn something around quickly. And I think actually often the content that we want to create looks and feels better when you make it like that, because I think if you have almost too much time, or I know, if you have too much time and the clients have too much time, you get this kind of very native thing, and by the end you've got this very polished, and that isn't necessarily what your audience wants, especially if I'm scrolling through Facebook or I just want to watch something quickly. I'm actually okay about it having very big subtitles over it, even if it doesn't look as beautiful as something else, because I don't want to listen to it with sound on. So I think it's knowing all of those things and kind of managing and getting people to buy into the fact that it's okay that it is different to what they're used to producing, or maybe like traditionally produced.
But Ellen, do clients understand that? Because I guess some clients are more edgy and want edgy stuff and they get it through their own culture, but if I listen to what you guys have said, you're trying here to almost create almost like a startup culture, you know, like quick fail, quick wins, very quickly, very quick iteration. But do you have actually clients that are not completely put off by that? I don't know, I'm not going to ask about Tesco, but some of these big companies might be like, oh, this is going too fast. Oh, no, look. The subtitles you put on that were like not really fantastic. I want something actually more polished. And then how do you deal with that?
So I actually think sometimes it's the clients who are pushing us as well. So speed is a big thing and agility is a big thing in the agency world, but also in the client world as well. And, you know, our best clients will understand, you know, that we can't apply those TV processes to create different types of content, and will sort of almost take our hand and go on the journey with us. Now, of course, we've got a range of different clients, some of them further down the progressive spectrum who are used to making more content like this and can behave that way, and some who still apply those old processes. So it's a real mix, but so much of what we spend our time doing is holding our hands out for those clients and sort of creating the relationships that allow us to then be really honest with our clients and sort of take them on that journey. Because so much of it comes down to the people you're working with and the faith that I have in Kate and Ben and Sas to be able to create bits of work like that.
So you just mentioned the faith, though. What type of people are you looking for?
Hard-working people, I think,
oh, yes.
obviously. I think, you know, Kate touched on it a little bit, but when you work in an advertising agency, you work because of the creative product. I mean, everybody that works in BBH Live is there to make the very best creative work, and you enjoy that creative process. So I think we need and we want people who have the resilience around ideas, so are able to sort of sell ideas to clients, but pick them up, develop them, collaborate with clients. And I think so much of old agency world has been, here you are, Mr. Client, have a look, what do you think? And then this sort of defensiveness around feedback and developing it together. But, you know, as you all know here, we live in a world of collaboration, and actually we get to better ideas by working with our clients. So it's having the confidence that you will get to those better ideas, and having the faith in your clients as well as your team.
I picked up on something that during your preparation was mentioned. You said, hiring actual marketers. Can you define me as an actual marketer? Do you mean that you've not hired actual marketers for a long time and then suddenly you have to hire actual marketers? What is an actual marketer?
Well, from a client point of view?
Yeah.
So I think some clients, marketing has become sort of an area where you sort of work your way through the business. For Tesco, for example, quite a lot of the marketing department have worked their way up from stores. And then they move into marketing, and they've given this sort of quite large task, but don't necessarily have the skill sets and the experience to be able to then deliver against that task. But I think now brands are becoming much smarter too. We need specialists in these roles to really deliver sort of change within the organisation, within the brand. So I think hiring actual marketeers and digital marketeers and transformation people who can then add value at that level is sort of what we're seeing in more of our clients now, rather than marketing just being left this thing in the corner that isn't really touched other than once a year.
I want for Saskia, I'll jump off, Sas, should I call you Sas, sorry, of what you just, I'm going to jump off about something you said here. You said clients are becoming more savvy. Clients are also becoming more savvy about which they should pay. So isn't there like a race to almost like commodization to the bottom of the pricing, and to say that, well, all that is fine, but at the end of the day, I just want an ad that is effective or efficient, and they don't know which word they actually need to use. Do you see that? Because you touched upon that earlier about programmatic advertising. Do you see there's a pressure like to the bottom? Do you actually?
And again, it's this argument that we have, maybe discussion rather than argument, around efficiency versus effectiveness, and everything that the clients want to do is to make sure they're getting the most of their money. And unfortunately, sometimes that means the lowest cost per view or the lowest CPM, rather than looking, to Ben's point, slightly longer term and understanding actually is a slightly higher cost per view driving slightly better brand equity or a stronger ROI. And I think we're going to see an ongoing battle between how we can speed up or correlate better the short-term metrics that we have to the longer-term brand impact. And at the moment, there's a huge disparity between the two that I think, or I hope in the next 18 months, we're going to slightly see that reduce.
So since we are about to conclude, I know there's a little other movie that we will show, but before either you, Alan or Ben, because you touched upon a more like high level further down the road, what's the agency of the future in a few words? What are the key things you think that you should guys do to still have this conversation in 30 years, if God gives me that lifespan?
I think that it's going to be the beautiful marriage of data and creativity, and that we need all of the smarts to optimize the work as much as possible and get to the best insights. But you still need a human hand to craft it, and that's where I still haven't seen a programmatic AI robot make a creative leap to somewhere that you'd never even think about going. It can really, really help refine and tell you all of the things that you already know you like, but no one has ever been able to put, a robot's never been able to put a gorilla in front of a drum set.
Ellen, do you want to also add something about the future of the agency?
I mean, I think sort of picking up on your point of payment, you know, and actually sort of some of the stuff that Sas was talking about applies to how clients pay us. And there is a real, I suppose, revolution going on at the moment with our clients, a lot of our clients wanting much more for a lot less. So I think a fundamental shift in our business model is probably coming for agencies, and how we, I suppose, are paid against value rather than against hours, because our industry will die if we don't transform there.
So do you want to maybe introduce the next video? I haven't seen it.
I can introduce it. So this is something we did for KFC, which was kind of born out of data that said our audience really, well, one, they aren't really watching TV. They're online, they're watching stuff live. So this was a live event we did on Facebook, and that they heavily index, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
So it was grime stars versus gaming. So they all basically love eating chicken and they love gaming. But what we realized is that they were gaming at home on their own, you know, kind of very insular, like playing online against people. And KFC is all about bold uniters, like bringing people together. So we wanted them to kind of, it's basically taking gaming back to where it used to be, which is on the couch with your mates, with some fast food. And I think this is just a kind of wrap-up video.
Can you run the video?
Hello and welcome to KFC versus Chicken Fans. Let's get ready to rumble! Introducing our gamers, Novelist and Ali A, P-Money and Mini Minter, Big Nasty and Claire Schwar, D-Double and JMX.
Honestly, I think they might be better than us.
I feel like they may have played a lot of games.
What makes you a pro gamer?
It's time we introduce our custom-built Colonel's Couch. We have buckets for chicken, there's sauces in there, unlimited drinks, and there's even little wipes for your hands.
I like the Colonel's Couch.
Round one, ready, fight! Very close. It's all over. This is mental. A little review of the chicken.
It's flavors.
It's not happening. It's a good game.
If we get to optimum banter level, then that's the fun part about the game. It's not winning. It's about how you play the game.
Come here. They're not legends. I didn't even expect that. Your winner of KFC versus 2016 Team Crusher. Congratulations.
Stop licking fingers, bro.
Well, thank God we're not in the UK, because I saw Arsenal 1-0 and that would actually create a riot in the crowd, especially me being a Chelsea fan. Any closing words before we go on? No? Good? Good? Well, guys, Ellen, Saskia, Kate, Ben, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.